Good afternoon. 안녕하세요. Thank you very much for staying with us after this morning and for coming to this session on digital experience. What I'll talk to you today is to continue a little bit from that video we just saw and what John Meller said this morning, which is that experience is the brand. We used to build and measure digital experiences because of digital metrics. So I want to increase the conversion rate because I want to sell more on my e-commerce store. Or I want to increase the applications on my credit card because I want to sell more credit cards through my website. That's still important, and digital experiences still make a big difference for doing that, but there's another level of importance that is taken on for marketing. What we're basically saying is that those experiences, if that was a good experience, that impacts not just the results for that month or that quarter, it slowly impacts your brand as well. So over time, if you become a brand that's known for great digital experiences, because everybody's on digital, as a brand, your reputation will go up. So we heard about how, and I think everyone here knows that we can't tell people what the brand is the same way that we used to be able to, because the experience is the brand. So the stakes are more important. So what I'm going to talk about is 5 trends that we're seeing and how Adobe is using technology to try and address those trends. And if we have some time, I have time, so hopefully we will, I'll also talk about an example of putting this into practice. A customer whose technology is great, but what are the next things you do to actually make this happen for real? So I'll tell you what the 5 trends are. I won't make you wait in suspense. The 5 trends are essentially connected experiences. So this is John's point about consistent and continuous. So connected experiences, really talking about people being connected wherever they are, whether it's their phones, their tablets, their watches, and so on, but also the experiences themselves being connected with each other. Okay. The next one is personalization. We've been hearing about personalization since the beginning of the internet, but this is a trend. I think technology has finally caught up with the promise to allow people to do personalization at scale. So not just my email says, "Dear Siva," but it actually starts to automatically understand my audience and give me offers as a result. The next one is content velocity. The speed at which we need content is growing exponentially. If you think about it, on my homepage I have some copy, some words, and an image. Okay. With a personalization in place, let's say I get to 5 major segments that I want to target different content to. Suddenly that page needs 5 images and 5 versions of copy. Then let's say I do an A/B or an ABCD test. Then suddenly I've got 5 versions times 4, that's 20 images times 20 pieces of copy. So the amount of content that needs to be created is going to go through the roof. And many agencies, including our close partners, they're not set up, and many brands aren't set up to ask agencies for content in the way that we think people need to. And if you did, the workflow of content creation and then putting it into a digital experience and optimizing it will not scale to what we think the market needs going forward. Okay. The other one is experience-driven commerce. I'll talk about this more, but this is the idea that in a few magazines that have set up, it's not that I look at some products like in a catalog, then I say, okay, I want to buy this product. So I list of products, I want this product, then I go to a shopping cart, and then I buy. That's how e-commerce has started. Experience-driven commerce, which is, especially if you're a brand that's doing commerce, is all about the idea that you want to make your experience like a magazine, right? So you're looking through a magazine, and you like that pair of shoes that is an ad, or the glossy ads you see in the magazine, and being able to reach out and get that pair of shoes out for you to buy. So the idea is, the digital experience is really a content experience. In the example of shoes, let's say it's a fashion experience with commerce kind of available and frictionless, so you can buy it at any time, but it's the experience that drives you to that purchase. Because if it isn't the experience. If you're trying to compete purely on commerce, there are some very big players out there, both in Korea and globally, that are doing that pure commerce thing at scale. And you can win at price sometimes, but you can't win at price all the time. But that experience makes a big difference to be able to do that. Finally is cloud agility. So being able to do things very, very fast, to be able to do things and scale things. If success happens quickly, faster than you expect, being able to move quickly, to basically bring IT and marketing on a similar page. Historically, IT has been more careful, worried about many things that cloud worries on their behalf. And as a result, marketing has found IT too slow. Okay, so we work with both sides, and we're basically thinking that, or we're seeing that cloud is fixing that and making IT and marketing better friends than they were before. So let's go through these. So when we talk about connected experience, this is some data, and I'd like your help, if possible. And I think I have some answers, but I really would like your help if I get this wrong. So I've got North America, Asia Pacific, and Western Europe, and how quickly these markets got to 50% of households that have, apologies for the font, that have internet, and let's say high-speed internet as well. Am I correct in saying that Korea had more than 50% with internet before 2000? Yeah? No? 2001? My first trip to Korea was in 2001, and already broadband was starting, and it was the most connected country in the world. Daum.net or Daum.com was the #1 website in the world. It was bigger than Yahoo. You guys were ahead of North America, you were ahead of Asia, and ahead of Western Europe as well. And it's continued. If you think about 50% of households that have at least one smartphone and tablet, again, I think Korea did this before the rest of the world. Okay. And finally, if you look at connected home entertainment devices, this may be about the same. I'm not sure about fitness devices. Maybe North America was first with these, but all of these areas, Korea was leading the world. And in marketing and in things like retail, Korea actually still leads the world in some areas, but in many areas, Korea has maybe slowed down on the marketing side, and things like, in places like North America and Western Europe, not so much Asia, doing things with, building digital experiences that basically those companies are doing it as well as, if not better than Korean companies. So I think you had a head start, and I think it's time for Korea to take that lead again and lead the world again. Okay. There's plenty of, the consumer in Korea is ahead of the consumer in the rest of the world. I think the marketers can be as well. The reality is everything is mobile. Okay. If you think about different channels, and if you think about the smartphone as a channel, the smartphone is no longer a channel. Smartphone is also your email channel. Smartphone is also your messaging and your social channel. The smartphone is also a phone call in your call center. So these devices, every job is a mobile job. And we've recognized this not just for our consumers, but also for our customers, our users. We think that by next year, about half the working population will be millennials. People that are used to touch interfaces. Okay, with Windows Touch and so on, all our interfaces are going through a touch thing. And it's an interesting exercise. If you haven't got a mobile site yet, to think about what it's like to use your website without a mouse. Okay, so if you've got one of those new Windows PCs which are touch, try to navigate your website without a mouse. And if you haven't done anything with mobile for your site, it's going to be a problem. And we've done that same exercise for our interfaces and so on. So yes, it's mouse-based, but like the demos we saw today, it's done through a touch device. Now for building mobile, this is a quick sort of run through. Our experience platform allows you to build experiences across lots of mobile devices. I won't let the whole demo run through. The Korea team can show this to you another time. But basically, you can go through, manage your websites, your mobile sites, as well as your apps. And you can manage all those apps by device, with all that content in the same interface that we use for managing the mobile site and the mobile page. And we think this is something that is really going to change the way mobile experiences are built. If you go back to, I'm quite old, if you go back to the 90s, late 90s, building a website was very difficult. You would send your agency would charge a lot of money, and you couldn't change anything on the website. And if you had to make a change, you had to go back to the agency and they would code what those changes were. And then slowly, content management systems and many other things came into place to make it easier for marketing to change web pages. Apps today are like web pages were 15 years ago. And it's slow, but we're slowly trying to make that difference, starting with measuring, which I'll talk about, but being able to build apps as easily, or almost as easily, as you can web pages through systems like ours. Okay? And what that can give you is a connected experience. And one of my colleagues had this kind of user experience, starting with Delta Airlines, which uses our platform across not just the screens that you have, but also kiosks and even on their in-flight entertainment system. But here's a situation where somebody bought something. This is our internal flight booking system, which is not on our platform, so it doesn't look very nice. But it's made by somebody on the phone. But because they're a loyalty member, when you go to Delta's site, all your information is there because it's tied it back to your loyalty member. Pretty easy, everyone does that. But really, it's about making that experience as nice as possible. Then you have timely messages that say, okay, it's time to check in. Okay, so it's that user experience. So experience bring the brand it means these kind of experiences. So it's time to check in. Then you've got your gate is departing. Your flight status is here by SMS. And then you've also got your sort of departure dates when you're actually at the airport as well, as sort of guiding you through. These experiences previously were not touched or not really influenced by marketing too much. Okay? And if you're a marketer in this audience, my sort of big call to action is get involved in this. Get involved in customer service. Get involved in the entire customer journey, even if they've already bought the ticket. Your job is done. I ran a campaign. I sold a lot of tickets. Good. Let me go to the next campaign. Get involved in this experience because this experience is your brand. The next time Delta Airlines goes to market and says, book this offer, and it's a great offer, but if your experience and the person went through this and this was not a nice experience, they will think twice about taking it up on the offer. Otherwise, maybe if your experience is so good, there's a good chance, there's a possibility that actually, even if the offer isn't the best, they will lean slightly more towards going with that offer. Okay, so as a marketer, I think as an offline marketer, you should be involved in what the flight experience is, but just purely digital. These digital experiences make a difference to your brand, and people start judging you by what these experiences are like. So some other things like, you arrive, and in the app it says share your arrival. Nice touch, your friends can see. But of course, when you hit share your arrival, it shares it with your friends, but with some Delta branding there as well. So it's not just I'm in Sydney, and I came with Delta. Right? So some free word of mouth there. Being able to make use of miles, and obviously leading then to buying new tickets. So this whole experience being consistent and continuous throughout that process. But for me, the key message is marketing, get involved in these experiences. Okay. The next one is personalization. So we have different types of data that we have, that we use and think about for personalization. And digital marketers have often focused on the online behaviors. But what we're seeing increasingly with the Marketing Cloud is the value that you get from the enterprise data. Stefan Dietrich had the slide with the Korean actress whose name is, with the blurred picture, Sungdae. I can't hear you, it's fine. Whoever that was. So basically, build that by getting not just your online data. Technology is making it more and more possible and easy to bring in enterprise data. Quite often, this data that your company has is very rich. but it's guarded and it's not made available for marketing. And at times, this data is very private. You shouldn't make use of this data in your marketing efforts. But what we're seeing is people taking the enterprise data. Let's say I am a bank or a car insurance company, and I'm a customer. Let's go back to a bank. I'm a customer. I have a credit card and a deposit account with that customer. When I'm coming to the website, maybe your homepage shouldn't be a homepage of that credit card. Okay? I haven't logged in yet, so you don't know. What we can do is take that enterprise data and not say, my name, how much money is in the bank, but just say, this person has product A and product B. So your homepage then listens to this in an anonymous way or a segment way and gives me something. First, let's not do whatever the products he already holds. If you're a bank, you probably have BI systems that are telling you the next best offer anyway, because that's what a lot of the intelligence for the bank comes from. So if your next best offer says, offer this person a home loan to buy a house, then use that to say another field which is not, again, my name or how much money I have, but next best offer equals house or equals housing products, and then you deliver that experience pre-login, post-login in the online banking environment, where you have even higher success. And I know it's not possible yet in Korea. In other markets, you can buy advertising using this segment data. So it's possible in Korea, but I think it's not so easy on Naver, for example. But in other markets, you can actually say, I want to target people like this on your media spend as well. Okay? So getting intelligence about people from all the data that you have. Now, to take that to the next level, our experience platform, so the Marketing Cloud has analytics capability, has the A/B testing, recommendations, personalization capability, and it has the experience building platform. But they were really three different products. You have one interface that's, I'll just go over here, where you could choose which thing that you did, but it was still really three different things. Okay? What we've done is bring in all that analytics capability into the content creation process. Quite often, the people that do analytics and the people that do content creation are not the same people, not the same department. And sometimes the way they look at it is they get a report end of the week, end of the month, say, this is interesting data, let me make the change. And I'm making changes every day or every week. I don't look at the data. We're trying to fix that to get people to use this more and more. So here's a quick run through as well. So setting up analytics on a site has become really easy. So in the backend integration sets up analytics. But in my authoring environment, I can look at, this is going really fast, last 30 days, I can sort that and go to a particular section. So I look by section. This is a very fast PC. It's going to go back again, so I'll let you see it one more time. You can see by section. You can say, for this page, for this segment, how many people, how many pages had more than 90,000 hits. So you can start to query the analytics and make your decisions on which content you need to change, what kind of content is working within that environment. To take that a step further, historically, here's an example of here's all my different metrics that I'm measuring. Again, I'm a bank. I should have used not a bank before, but I'm a bank here. And you would say page views, okay, home page is 200,000, personal checking is 125,000, etc. And you would rank it. But this doesn't really tell you which of that content is working, because some of that stuff has a lot of hits because it is at the beginning. Some of that content may be really bad, but because where it is, it gets a lot of page views. And if you just look at page views, you may think, this is great content. So just one simple thing we can do with the analytics is say what's called participation. This is just an example. You take all of these and you say, what is the impact they had on conversion, if conversion is a completed online application? Okay. Now you have content here with very little traffic, and when people see this content, they don't buy, or they don't sign up, or they don't apply. Probably eliminate this content. Nobody's looking at it. When they look at it, they don't do anything. This content has not that much traffic, but when people see it, they are really more likely to go and sign up or apply. Okay? So that's the content. Maybe that content is not in the right place. Maybe that content needs to be more closely to the homepage or the higher level in the navigation. Or maybe there is something inside that content, a particular kind of message, a particular kind of image that is really working that you can use everywhere. Okay? This content is lots of traffic, but when people see it, they aren't taking action. So maybe you want to get rid of it, or probably change it, change the content itself, or change where it is in the user journey. Or use something like A/B testing, recommendations, personalization to make this content better. Okay? And then you have your rockstar content at the top. That's the stuff that's really important. Lots of people see it, and when they see it, they buy stuff, which is great. Okay? So bringing that data into the authoring and creation process is another big trend that's giving lots of results, and we're supporting that with our technology. Next one is content velocity. I won't spend too much time. Basically, you need to create a lot of content. Content marketing is able to cut through a lot of the advertising that isn't as effective as, or reaches as much as before. But the time, the pressure to create content, quite often you can tell sometimes a campaign that they ran out of time because it was rushed through. And that content velocity that I talked about is what's really important to make this possible. And this is really something that Adobe, we think we have a very strong play, because most people, whether it's yourself, if it's not yourself, most agencies are likely to be using the Creative Cloud. Right? So this is the ability, if I go back to that example, I've made my image and I want 5 different images and I want variations of each image. Where am I doing that? I'm doing that in Photoshop and Lightroom and all the tools that are in the Creative Cloud. So in Korea, you don't buy Photoshop anymore, right, on a CD. You buy it as a subscription. And your files are kept in the cloud. Now, we have integrated, obviously with the security and the permissions, integrated that cloud where all your agency's work is, and the marketing cloud. So you're able to go from Photoshop with an approval to your app, to your site, really, really quickly. So that workflow is, we're trying to smoothen that out and make that content velocity as fast as possible. And in fact, even if you don't use anything in the marketing cloud and you're just a creative person, the technology that the Creative Cloud uses underneath to keep all those assets is actually the same technology that we have, that we sell to our customers for managing their images. So it becomes very easy to integrate those two things together. So you get sort of design to web very, very quickly. Okay. Experience-driven commerce, I won't spend a lot of time on, but there's a few different worlds. One is, if you think about from a technology point of view, you have the capability, the shopping cart, the pricing, the inventory management, and so on. That's the main thing. And I have some content on the top of it which is pretty thin to get people there, maybe some SEO, and then they have access to the products I'm trying to sell. The opposite world is I have mainly a content site with some commerce functionality. And we've basically said it needs to be another way, which is really bring those two things together. And we've worked very closely with all the e-commerce platforms to make that possible. And we basically have an e-commerce integration, which I'm not going to play with, but inside here where you've got a content type experience, each of these things, you can add inventory and edit things like pricing and bundling in the content management system, or you can do it in the e-commerce system. So the back-end people, the operational people, they're working on their SAP or whatever system that's feeding the e-commerce system. The marketing team is also able to work in your interface to make that content more engaging. We're taking it a bit further. This is the ability to have zones and so on in your images and in your videos to make more of the experience buyable, right? So this process of creating a video and putting some products in it, being able to basically, in my video, add for different segments. So I say, for these people, I'm going to show these 2 products. And for these other people, I'm going to assign these couple of products, because in my video, those are the kind of things that I'm going to have. So you can personalize a video, and you attach or associate different things from your catalog to that video. You can do this today. It's just very difficult and slow. And in the end, many, many sites have video where this doesn't happen, because that content velocity thing I talked about, you need to get these things out, and there's lots of them. We're making this process a lot easier to be able to associate content with zones, clickable zones that fly out to things like, so the previous one was a quick link, or in this case, to a URL. So you can essentially do anything with that link that you want, but you're associating the video with those different products. So as I go through, that's on the side, and I have that product name, video pauses, and I continue, and I can carry on with that. Okay. So cloud agility. So cloud is something that is really speeding up everything, but example of UK and Singapore, because I'm from the UK, I live in Singapore. It really makes collaboration between offices, the collaboration between your team, much more straightforward. The trend of the consumer, obviously, is that more and more of their stuff is going in the cloud. But from a managing point of view, cloud allows you to roll out things faster. Your expectations of how long it takes to build a new site, a new experience on, through digital, needs to become faster and faster and faster and faster. Okay? It used to be okay to say we're doing a new site infrastructure, is going to take 18 months or 2 years. That's not okay. You can't even say, 1 year is a long time if there's a lot of back-end IT maybe, but most things need to be rolled out much, much faster. And the ability to scale these things makes it far more straightforward. And what it really means is, this is not Adobe, the whole cloud industry. It means that your IT team, whose job is, let's say you are a telco, your IT team's job is to support your IT needs and the telco business. They are not spending all their time worrying about servers and hosting and all of those things, and we make that far more effective as well. So from an Adobe point of view, all of these platforms are available both on-premise as well as in the cloud, so that you can roll it out extremely fast. So those are my 5 trends, but I want to share a story that my friend Joe Loy, who's our customer at a company called StarHub, which is the number 2 telco provider in Singapore, where I live. So he presented this at an event we had, and I thought it's really good, not just talk about trends and technology, but how do I do it? What's the next step? And they've done a lot. And his point, it really is technology, process, and people. Okay? I've talked about the technology, so I'll go through this. I took up most of those things, but like a behavior before was customers browse, one size fits all on a CMS, to really trying to understand that customer better, measure exactly what they're doing, recommend and target what they want to do, then build things like a responsive design for different devices. Okay, great results, which I won't sort of dwell on, but shopping's gone up 100%, site visits, all of that's really working for these guys. Now, where it gets harder is the process. Doing these things requires change management. Okay, change management in a couple of areas. So you go from having design, building the style guide, developing, so involving code to develop the design, the content, the copy, etc. And then you launch, and maybe you wait 2 years, and you go, this is not working, I need a new design, and you go through that process. And changing that really to an ongoing iterative process, which starts really with research. And research onto your existing data. They were an analytics customer anyway, so that was a bit easier, but obviously attitudinal research, market research, psychographic information. What are the kind of things that people are doing, including things, offline research like focus groups. But from a digital point of view, who are these people? What are they looking for? Why do they exit, and so on. Then we have the web governance. So what is that customer journey? Okay, so he's called it web governance, but I would even broaden it to that customer journey from seeing an ad to an email to an SMS to the home page to all the different steps to understanding what that is, and then having some enforcement to the team that are running these campaigns around that style guide that you need. Then you develop, so you're not developing pages now, you're developing the journey, the media, the copy and so on, and you're sort of defining these new workflows, and you develop. And then you deploy. But once you deploy, you've got ongoing analysis and ongoing conversion rate optimization, which is always tweaking. So you don't have this idea of, you do a revamp of activity, then you stop, then you wait, and you do another revamp. It's always activity going on. So making it all of these nice things, but essentially the results, operation support needed was reduced by 50%. The SLA that they were giving to the stakeholders, to the product owners in the company, was improved by 30%. What it basically means is faster time to market with less people. On the people side, this is what I thought was, I guess, the most interesting side of this presentation was getting the people bought in. I think it was John Meller earlier that talked about you get a champion, then they influence people around them, then you get another champion, and they influence people, and then slowly you get more and more people to kind of take it. It's like an epidemic. You infect people with doing digital in a new way. And one of the things that they did was create an environment with exposure to these tools, a lot of education, and giving them a great experience. And that education it doesn't stop. It's not one training course, it's ongoing. We've seen companies do some crazy things, people dressing up as superheroes, running around the office, having games, just to get people interested and excited. We have a customer that made a comic book, got the agency to draw a comic book and all the different processes made in a very interesting way to get this kind of change involved. These guys, they had the presentations on the tools, so we would do those. They run clinics. So every week or every 2 weeks, there's a lunchtime clinic. So somebody from the analytics team sits there, and people come, and they can ask any questions to the expert. Why is that? Because historically, an analytics team has been a small group, and then nobody else uses so much analytics anymore. If you can empower the people that are the consumers, the product owners, the campaign marketers, it just gets analytics used everywhere. And actually, in the end, the analytics team is not doing day-to-day queries. So 70% of what an analytics team does historically has just been things that are very routine, very boring, that anybody can do. And 30% is the things that's their value, and B, things they more enjoy doing anyway. Okay? So that's something to focus on. And they run internal seminars, conferences, coffee talks. A key part of that, obviously, is the leadership getting involved. Okay, so the CMO, the head of digital, basically driving this agenda throughout the organization. And to be honest, in StarHub, those people at the more senior level were not that young, but once they were bought in, they really drove it home and sort of leading by example in how to do this. So those are the 3 key takeaways from a how do you get it done point of view. And in case you didn't get to get the picture in time before, here are those 5 trends that are affecting digital experiences as well. Thank you very much.